Laura, I was just watching a little bit of this video and I had to stop because it was just silly, to be putting it lightly. uh, it's like daggers to my ears, pretty much. But I was just thinking about this conversation in reference to the video that I just did, because it's funny, because to see these faces, this is Joe Rogan's thing, to see these three faces on one thumbnail, and compare them to my last few videos. It's kind of funny to see how this is all coming together now, all in one story. I didn't know that. I had no idea that Joe Rogan or Killer Mike was gonna be on Joe Rogan, but it doesn't surprise me. They're both the Netflix crew now. Like, I've been talking about Netflix for a while now. So if Netflix is, all about Joe Rogan and Killer Mike, of course they're gonna do something like that. So they're in the same kind of language, same sort of thing. So talking about this doesn't surprise me either. But was making me think in reference to flat Earth, or the not heliocentric universe specifically, was the so we don't really talk too much about the consciousness of believing in the universe, of like the heliocentric universe. So the one of the main things that comes from that belief system is the believing in other life forms existing in the infinitude of this, ever expanding Big Bang universe. And what happens is, when you create that mentality in the consciousness that's based upon the entire universe, that being or that consciousness exists within, you're creating a synthetic God figure, because you're creating the synthetic God figure is the subconscious notion that a God created all and infinite everything. But what it really does is, when you come from a perspective of realizing that we're not in a heliocentric universe, is that takes you away from understanding, understanding, and overstanding your relationship to this experience that you're in right now. So the world that has been created for you, or the universe that has been created for you outside of the universe that has been created, in a sense, for you to escape within. And this is why you have people in the New Age community who are living these entire perspectives of reality based upon beings from, other belief systems of other lifetimes, other beings, these creatures from another star system, and all kinds of stuff, like the Pleiades, the Arcturians, like the Andromedans. Like, you have all these as a friend of mine said, cosplay. It's like new age cosplay, or extraterrestrial cosplay characters, which is how I've been explaining it, is another escape mechanism, to escape the overtly and self-destructive, like collectively destructive and self-destructive world that has been fabricated by the system to create fear-driven slaves, the escape world, the catch. So you're scared, so you don't go that way, but you go this way. You think they're not going to have a catch, like a safety mechanism or a contingency plan for that? Yes, of course they are. So if you can be controlled by fear, do you not think they're going to have a system designed to control you with love, or the idea of love? Of course there is. So this is the New Age community, and this is what the merge is going on with this interpreting of your universe. What I'm saying is that the way these individuals are interpreting it is going to be going into the whole new world mentality. And one of the reasons why, the main reason why I stopped this video, because I didn't need to hear anymore, is what Killer Mike said out of his own mouth. And then I'm just paraphrasing because I can't remember what he said specifically, but he said something to the extent of, I like basically hella want, you know, an alien, you know, kind of thing to happen in some kind of way, like, because he was saying he was all on the nuts of the Reagan video, talking about how that Reagan was, you know, ahead of his time or whatever, talking about, you know, an alien threat would unify us. So that's the new world order mentality that just predated the whole George Bush new world order speech. So now the new version of that are the lackeys of that crew, which are the Joe Rogans. And as far as this video is being made right now, Killer Mike as well too, because he's the one that's actually emphasizing this point with his whole following now. And he's the one that said something to the extent of, I would really hope that we would, you know, get some kind of alien thing to happen, because that would unify all the empires. And this is the whole mentality that I've been explaining in all of these videos, is that these individuals who are working for the system, either consciously or unconsciously, whether they mean well or not, are at best trying to, you know, this idea of unification, and that's why they see the information that I share as divisive or whatever. But this whole unification mentality is another escape mechanism, no different than the New Agers escaping to another star system, thinking that they are a part of some other, you know, lifetime or being or consciousness, and channeled information is more important than your, you know, day-to-day information, food, water, and shelter everywhere, with your brothers and sisters dying every day because of this system. So people keep going from escape mechanism to escape mechanism and never really dealing with the situation. So the universe itself, the heliocentric universe in the consciousness of the individual, is designed to be an escape mechanism, so so-called intellects can intellectualize their resume in the mainstream perspective by hypothesizing about, you know, aliens and all this other stuff that's fringe, and all this is fucking kindergarten bullshit. This is nothing. So yeah, so that whole, this is what I was saying. That's why I said Killer Mike is with that whole trigger. It's not triggering. It's like Killer Mike's trigger warning thing is like saying that Black Lives Matter is comparable to, like, triggering. That kind of triggering is not triggering. It's the Black Lives Matter of the entire discussion that needs to be had about so-called civilization itself, the entire consciousness discussion, and the entire, on the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual warfare. It's kindergarten in an entire university system that needs to be, you know, like metaphorically, a university system that needs to be analyzed very deeply, because it's boiling down to people losing their lives every single day because of this imaginary mentality that has been infiltrating the peoples across the entire realm. So that's the whole point, is the universe consciously really removes you from the beings here and the consciousness here and what's going on here. This is not a new thing, but I just felt it was something to emphasize in reference to all the other distractions like that's on the screen right now, like the Joe Rogan, the alien, the Killer Mike thing. And I've just been bouncing around in little chunks of this Killer Mike, Joe Rogan discussion. It's interesting to me because I've done videos on both of these individuals very recently, and yeah, I don't think I could bear to watch an entire discussion. Killer Mike might get like okay, but like he's made it oh, he's done better than most other people have done. He knows. He seems to be aware of Joe Rogan's tactics, his control tactics to some degree, and he goes far and really he I say go far in a sense of going far in reference to their two the two of their discussion depths. He goes far in reference to where Joe Rogan doesn't, he's not really comfortable in going, so he'll just change the subject or ignore what was just said. That I've noticed that in the little clips that I've seen about 4 clips, different topics. So it's worth analyzing if you're interested. But I just wanted to wanted to make that really quick statement in reference to us connecting to something that matters beyond what's just spoon fed to us by these jesters, pretty much these distractioners in so many different ways. They're entertainers. These are what these individuals are, and I'm not gonna go into the details of the micro like of these individuals personally because that's not my concern. I'm not concerned about any one of these individuals on a micro scale because that would be counter to my point being made, which is to initiate or at least expand upon or at least initiate the discussion of the macro scale, which these individuals will never get into that discussion. Like I said, like he actually worded, he said, these individuals, and I'll end it on this, there's a difference between individuals who are trying to so-called unify empires, like the New Age community, and like the wording that Killer Mike actually said on Joe Rogan's podcast, something to the extent of, I hope an alien thing would come down so we can unify so all these empires around the world could unify. So that's why I said there's a very definite, that's why I stopped that video and started making this video, to say that there's a very definite difference between the consciousness of the individual or the fire of the individual that is attempting or only looking at or focusing their attention on so-called unifying these standing empires, these genocidal empires, and the individuals who are saying that we need to actually address the existence of these empires and really address this is another thing that I'm going to go into as well, is that we don't really look at this, and this is another discussion that a lot of people can get into because this is going to be a very much a part of the discussion coming very soon, especially with all this political shit going on. These individuals who are in these university systems, who have been medicating our children and our family, our older family members, our elders have been medicated. They have been called crazy. By who? The system. The system that is dedicated. Now, this is not to completely remove all of the psychology validity and all that and all that other stuff, all those studies. No, I'm not saying that. People get all into those extreme spaces. What I'm saying is the authority of within the world of mental health needs to be analyzed, and especially with this whole what's accepted. This is the whole thing. The system of mental health right now is its origins come from, and I don't need to say any more than this. The system of authority of the university system, mental health, and all this other stuff right now that's going on right now, its origins are founded in the same authority system that was okay with feeding slave babies, actual human living expressions of the Most High, original peoples, to reptiles, to crocodiles, to alligators. They fed them to them so they can make money. They were breeding. They had that in mind before some of these babies were birthed. These slave masters were walking around, laughing and joking and feeding these mothers of these babies until the baby was born. And then when the mother wasn't looking, they take the baby down to the river, put in a cage, and the alligator comes and they trap or kill the alligator after the baby's been eaten, swallowed whole many times. That mentality is the same mentality that led to, or that was a part of Jim Crow, that led to the need for the fake idea of change called the civil rights, which is just the concessions of a slave system. The concessions of a slave system. What can be sold to the slaves to shut them up to a degree that would allow us to stay in power? That's what the civil rights were. And the individuals who are still not addressing the core issues of the authority of this so-called system, like this is why I said this is why Flat Earth fits into the human story, and people are starting to see this now when they are seeing what's going on Fox News with the Black Hebrew Israelites and the MAGA hats and all that other stuff, as if you didn't know this was going to happen. It's out there. And, you know, it's just, think of it as energy. That's why I watch it now. It's not a surprise at all. Think of it as energy, and they're just stirring the pot. And then people are going to believe and dictate, and think of it at the same time with the EBT stuff that's going on too. EBT, for people who don't know, EBT is like food stamps. So people's food is being cut off, and then they're actually instigating the racial tensions specific to actual groups that they can easily label as terrorists, like the Black Hebrew Israelites. By just, you know, and then, you know, from there, web off from there, just from like the ISIS mentality, they can web off to easily into Flat Earth and all kinds of other, you know, outlets, wherever they like. That's just how they are. They're straight into the Black conscious community. So this is these are like the last ditch scenarios, or the last, you know, thing. That's why I said you have to pay. So that's funny. I say play attention to the pieces on the board. Pay attention to the pieces on the board as you're playing. Play attention to the pieces on the board as you're paying attention to the pieces on the board, because those pieces on the board are a part of, you know, what you're saying, whether it's involved in your situation now or later. It's better to present the information to people so they're not shocked, and when the situation does arise, and they can be prepared to some degree if they happen to be in that situation. So these individuals like Killer Mike and Joe Rogan are not really interested in empowering the people to that degree. They're more interested in entertaining the people to the degree of an idea of another concession. This version of concession will be international, whereas the national concession of the civil rights movement and all that other stuff was good enough because the American superpower at that time was a worldly superpower, and it could control and did control the mass consciousness of the world with television, with the moon landing, and with everything else that came about after the years, the MTV, the cable TV, the internet, the computers, the plastic microwave TV world, and so on and so forth, until we're now talking about, what's going on and what's not going on, as if we're surprised, this stuff is existing and all this other stuff, So people are now finally starting to see and not being able to just, avoid this information anymore. And let's see how. I'm interested to see how some of these so-called flat Earth channels and truther channels actually speak about this, because now they're no longer going to have to avoid this information. Now they're going to have to start to research, what the Black Hebrew Israelites are actually saying, are what they have said, what the shit they said that's jacked up, and the stuff they said that's on point, and people are going to have to look at that. Because now, whereas before they could just put people in the corner, but now people are on the news and all this other stuff. You can't just run and hide in your little truth cubbyhole anymore. This ain't no compartmentalized truth. It was compartmentalized before, but now it's starting to get a little more thick. And can't hide behind the memes anymore. The actual information has to be rooted in somewhere. It can't be rooted in a bumper sticker. You can't root yourself in a movement. Like when somebody asks you, where's your soul rooted? You can't, look to your latest Facebook post. If that's what you're doing, then you are a product of this situation, this same situation that created your your belief in this extraterrestrial consciousness that really separates you from the space. Like what's going on in your near and dear surroundings, your family, your friends, your environment. This is the same kind of consciousness that separates you from you really understanding, and overstanding your power in providing yourself with food, clothing, shelter, your own security, so on and so forth, outside of this empirical system that these individuals verbalize that they are actually trying to so-called unify. This ain't no different than the so-called Civil Rights Act on an international scale. So the Civil Rights Act on an international scale is the new world order, so on and so forth. So the end, I don't know. on that note, thank you for the support. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.